is not Europe, is Western Europe. There is a huge gap between, in this regard, East and West. And look at all.
You're absolutely right. Yeah,
So
absolutely right.
I want to mention it because it just shows so clearly the difference, even regarding anti-Semitism. Like Eastern European countries, or I can talk to Mike about my country, Hungary, we didn't have pro-Palestinian protests for many reasons, but we did not during the last 2 years. And so the differences between those people who invited these ideologies / cultures, and the other side is palpable, and the statistics and the facts talk for themselves.
Yeah, just to Virat's point, let me just share one story here, because I lived in Hungary and I currently live in Ireland, and things are very different when it comes to feeling some things we have at home. Like you can see, I have a Hanukkah just behind me. That's fine, because most Irish people don't know what it is, so that's fine. I keep it there all the time.
Yeah.
But in my bedroom, that I'm not going to show you because that's very private, I have an Israeli flag. Okay. Now, when I'm away, or when myself and my girlfriend are away, as we know, I have a cat, and you can see him, you can see the portrait with me there somewhere on my back. So when we are away, we need to hire a so-called cat sitter, and we have 2 cat sitters. We have the Brazilian, who is evangelic, and they have no issue keeping the Israeli flag, because I know she's a big fan of the Holy Land. And we have an Irish, and I don't know who is she. She has always been professional. She always did the job, but I don't know her political beliefs. I don't know her views on the Middle East, or if she has any. But just to be safe, I always remove the flag. Now, when I lived in Hungary, it never ever occurred to me to remove the Israeli flag. And people will say, but look at the history, look at the Shoah, look at all that. Yeah, but that was a couple of generations ago. I'm aware of it. But I wouldn't feel at all if a Hungarian cat sitter would come to look after my cat when I'm away, whether I'm in Hungary or in Ireland, because that's not the case. And then people criticize Fidesz and Hungarian government for being racist and xenophobic and anti-Semitic. They don't know what they're talking about. They probably
Vitor, excuse me. They do know what they're talking about, in the sense that they're pernicious. They're misrepresenting the truth. They deliberately misrepresent things. And this is what I wanted to get back to. Something you mentioned, Eastern Europe, which still has a traditional conception of reality, and the European Union. And I think we have to try to understand something about the European Union. And it is my humble opinion that the European Union is the most anti-European organization in the world. And I think it reflects itself in the treatment of the Jews, because the Jews are an exception in the sense that they've always maintained their national identity. And the European Union is essentially about dissolving national identity, and this is reflected in the literature, and especially in the material in schools that the didactic material that is generated. Some thoughts on that?
I generally think the European Union as an idea was great back then. It just got overstretched. They couldn't stop at the economical and financial collaborations, and I do believe that the European Union is a threat for sovereignty and national identities and cultures. So much so that I actually wrote my bachelor thesis on this topic. But it was so close to our accession to the European Union that no supervisor wanted to accept my topic.
Nobody wanted to touch it.
Yes. So eventually I found one journalist and one real big thought leader in Hungary who accepted that. And today, 10, 15 years later, we can talk about it. It's really scary. So I do believe they are a threat. I do believe that the governments, Poland, Hungary, and even Croatia, even though their leadership is not necessarily, aligned with our government, but they are trying to sustain that. And when you turn off social media and you talk to the people on the street, most of them understand the threat. So this is also just a little bit going back to the reality that social media is not the the mirror on our whole society. As Daniela mentioned,
Right.
the quantity of the bots and things and
Mm.
AI, and it's not the reality. And people really need to remind themselves sometimes, turn off your phone for 4 days, you're going to face a whole different reality by talking to the people on the streets.
Right. What I just like to add one thing before I hand back the floor, as it were. I'm firmly convinced that the EU and many other Western countries which think in the same terms are a pernicious actor. They are effectively at war with Israel on many levels. Their media, their academia embolden our enemies.
Yeah. I would like to make a point related to what Virag said. It's true. And this difference between Western Europe and Eastern Europe is due to the fact that traditionally Jews in Eastern Europe were seen as a nation primarily, whereas in Western Europe they were seen as a religion. So it's far easier for Eastern Europeans to see that Zionism as the national movement of a nation than for the Western Europeans to think that suddenly, a religious community decided to establish some sort of theocracy in the middle of, of the Middle East.
Right. Sorry, Rafael, but I'd like to remind you that the European Union understand that Israel is a nation, and that's the problem. That is why their ethos is an anti-nation state ethos, and they see in Israel a paragon of nationhood.
I don't think they're intelligent enough to have an ideology. I think that they're not accountable, so they have a lot of money and can do anything they want to do. They want to play a role. So if you see, the dynamics of European diplomacy, you'll always realize that European policy is somewhere between, in any conflict, somewhere between America and either China, America, or the Arab world. And in the end, they're dishonest with everyone because they don't take a line. They waffle all the time. And I remember a sad incident in which I wanted to go to Bethlehem and organize a camel safari for my family. And I talked to this, Arab tour operator, and he gave me an exorbitant price. And I emailed him and I said, I worked 2 years in an NGO in the West Bank, and dishonest people like you are what make your country, your people so poor and unsuccessful. And you replied with something that was actually very true. He said, "You, as a European, have nothing to lecture me about because the European Commission funds the whole entire kleptocracy of the Palestinian Authority. So don't lecture me about ethics and morality, please."
I want to pick on something that Marco mentioned, if you don't mind. I don't. Do you want to add something to this topic, Daniela, before I move on?
Just maybe on the point of maybe something that can help, and I think that President Trump is going in that direction. And I'm going to speak just a moment about the normalization. Syria isn't really the matter. I'm picking up on what I said before. Syria really isn't the matter here, and the matter is actually Saudi Arabia and the coalition of the Sunni states against not only Iran but also Russia and China. And the meaning of it is he aims to build not only railways but also a gas and oil pipe going through from the Gulf states through Israel, through Syria, Jordan, and up to Europe, and then disconnecting Europe from Russia and China. Okay, so you can only do that through Israel and the Gulf states. That may help making Europe less dependent on the Arab money, and therefore also less dependent on China and Russia. And maybe we'll see a tilt in strategy. Maybe. Again, anti-Semitism is so rooted, and also what you spoke about anti-nation, that is all I agree completely. So I don't know if there is a remedy for this, but as we see in history, anti-Semitism goes up and down in waves. So I do hope that after the victory now against Iran, it will decline at least a bit. I don't know if I'm hopeful. I can just wish for it.
We all need the hope. So I like that you share that.